Hey everybody, and welcome back for another deep dive. You know how we do things around here? We grab some ancient wisdom and see if we can figure out how it applies to us today. And today, well, we're going right to the source. King Solomon, in fact. More of his Proverbs from the book of Proverbs, chapter 25. This time around, we're working with Proverbs collected during the reign of King Hezekiah of Judah. That's got to be some good stuff, don't you think? Passed down through generations like that.
Oh, absolutely. Talk about timeless wisdom. I mean, these sayings have survived for centuries. There's definitely something to be said for that kind of staying power.
Yeah, for sure. It's almost like getting advice straight from the horse's mouth. Or, well, the king's mouth, I guess. Anyway, I'm really excited to see what gems we can uncover today. And hey, maybe we can even figure out how to apply some of these ancient proverbs to our own modern life. What do you say? Are you ready to dive in?
I'm ready when you are. Let's do it.
Okay, so let's jump right in with the first few verses, Proverbs 25.2 past 3. These really got me thinking. They talk about God hiding things for kings to discover, and about how the heart of a king is unsearchable. It's like there's this whole hidden world of leadership, like there's so much more going on beneath the surface.
It's true, isn't it? We often think of leaders as having all the answers, but the reality is they're often dealing with situations where they don't have all the information. They have to make tough calls, and those decisions have a ripple effect. It's a heavy responsibility.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes they have to make those tough calls without knowing the full picture. So I guess it makes sense that God would want to equip them with wisdom. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's a reminder that true leadership isn't just about having authority. It's about seeking wisdom, considering all angles, and constantly striving to learn and grow.
So would you say good leaders are kind of like detectives then, always searching for clues and trying to put the pieces together?
I like that analogy. It's a lot like detective work, figuring things out as you go. And it's not just kings and leaders who face these challenges. We all have to make decisions with incomplete information. We all have to navigate complex situations.
That's so true. Okay, so we've talked about the weight of leadership. But what about the people surrounding those leaders? Advisors and counselors. I'm thinking about Proverbs 25.4-5 here. It talks about purifying silver and removing wicked people from the king's presence. It's like cleaning house, right? Getting rid of the stuff that's weighing you down.
Exactly. Surrounding yourself with good counsel is crucial, whether you're a king or just trying to navigate your own life. It's about having people around you who will tell you the truth, even when it's hard to hear. People who will challenge you and help you grow.
Sometimes I think we're all a little too quick to surround ourselves with yes people. People who will just agree with everything we say. But that doesn't really help us in the long run, does it?
Not at all. We need those folks who aren't afraid to call us out when we're messing up. Those people who want what's best for us, even if it means being the bearer of bad news sometimes.
Now, that's some real talk. Okay, but speaking of good advice, let's move on to Proverbs 25.6-7. This one, I have to admit, made me chuckle a little. Don't go pushing yourself to the front of the line, or you might find yourself being shown the door. Biblically.
It's a classic blunder, isn't it? And I think it's a lesson that transcends time and culture. It's about humility, recognizing your place and respecting the social order.
Right. So it's all about knowing when to step up and when to step back. Reading the room, so to speak. And that could be a tough one, can it?
It definitely can. It's a delicate balance between asserting yourself and knowing when to blend in. I mean, we all want to be recognized for our talents and contributions, but there's also a time and a place for everything. And sometimes the wisest course of action is to take a step back and let others shine.
I like that. Sometimes the best way to stand out is to know when to blend in. Deep. Okay, but let's keep moving. What about Proverbs 25.8-10? What's going on there?
Well, these verses are all about avoiding hasty judgments and keeping confidences. Don't jump to conclusions and don't betray a trust. It's pretty straightforward advice, but so important, especially in today's world where gossip and rumors spread like wildfire.
Yeah, I could definitely see how those would apply today, especially with social media and everything. It's so easy to get caught up in the drama and spread information without really thinking about the consequences.
Right. We have to be so careful with the things we say and share, both online and offline, because once something's out there, it's out there. And you can't always take it back.
So true. It's like they say, think before you speak, or in this case, think before you post. But hey, let's lighten things up a bit. Check out this beautiful imagery in Proverbs 25.11-12. It compares timely advice to golden apples in a silver basket. I mean, how cool is that?
Isn't that a great image? And it really makes you think about what makes advice not just good, but truly timely. I think it has a lot to do with the way it's given. The right advice at the wrong time can be just as ineffective as the wrong advice at the right time. But when it all comes together, the right words, the right moment, the right delivery, it can be truly transformative.
You're totally right. I've definitely had times where I've received advice that just didn't click at the time. But then later on, when the circumstances were different, it suddenly made perfect sense.
It's like a seed being planted. It might not sprout right away, but the potential is always there. And sometimes all it takes is a change in perspective or a shift in circumstances for that seed to finally take root and grow.
And sometimes you need someone who can, see that seed and help it grow. Okay, well, speaking of the right words at the right time, how about this one? Proverbs 25.13-14. It compares a trustworthy messenger to refreshing snow in the summer, and a broken promise to clouds that bring no rain. Talk about vivid imagery.
I love those verses. They're all about reliability and integrity. A trustworthy messenger is like a breath of fresh air, especially when you're in a tough spot. You know they're going to come through for you no matter what. But someone who breaks their promises, well, that they're about as useful as a rain cloud with no rain. All talk and no action.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than getting your hopes up only to be let down. So I guess these proverbs are telling us to be the kind of people who follow through on our commitments, to be the snow in the summer, not the empty rain cloud.
Exactly. And building that kind of trust takes time and consistency. It's about proving ourselves reliable over and over again through our words and our actions.
Totally agree. Okay, moving on to Proverbs 25.15. This one really got me thinking. Patience can persuade a prince, and soft speech can break bones. Whoa, that's powerful stuff. So even when dealing with someone in a position of power, patience and gentle persuasion can be more effective than force.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that strength doesn't always have to be loud and aggressive. Sometimes the most powerful force is the quiet persistence of a gentle hand.
It's like that saying, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. Okay, but what about Proverbs 25.16-17? Those seem a little different. Like, too much honey can make you sick, and don't wear out your welcome. What's that all about?
It's a lesson in moderation. We all have things we enjoy, but even good things can become harmful if we overindulge. Finding that balance is key, knowing when to say enough is enough.
Right. Like, we all need to enjoy life to have fun, but there's a time and a place for everything. Okay, now this next one is a bit of a heavy hitter. Proverbs 25.18. It compares lying to using a weapon. It's pretty intense. So basically, words can be just as damaging as physical violence.
I think that's exactly what this proverb is trying to tell us. Words have incredible power. They can build people up, but they can also tear them down. And sometimes, the wounds inflicted by words can take much longer to heal than physical injuries.
I think we often underestimate the power of our words. We might think, oh, it's just words, but they can really have a lasting impact. Okay, ready for another one. Proverbs 25.21-22. This one really threw me for a loop. If your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. In doing this, you will keep burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you. What does that even mean? Like, show kindness to my enemy. Why would I do that?
It's definitely a radical concept. I mean, our natural inclination is to fight fire with fire, right? But this proverb is suggesting a different approach. It's about rising above our baser instincts and choosing compassion over revenge.
So it's not about actually putting burning coals on their head. It's more like showing kindness to your enemy might actually make them feel ashamed of their actions, like they're being burned by their own guilt.
That's a great way to put it, and I think it also speaks to the transformative power of love and forgiveness. When we choose to respond to hatred with kindness, we create an opening for healing and reconciliation. We break the cycle of negativity.
That makes sense. And who knows, maybe that act of kindness could even change your enemy's heart. But okay, I think we have time for one more. Proverbs 25.23, tie 24. These verses paint a pretty bleak picture. It's like a gossipy tongue is like a cold north wind, and living with a constantly arguing spouse is worse than living alone in a cramped attic.
Yikes. Those are some tough words, for sure. I think they're really driving home the destructive nature of negativity and conflict. Whether it's gossip, constant bickering, or just a generally toxic environment, those things can really drain our energy and damage our relationships.
It's almost like those negative words and actions, they create this cold, harsh atmosphere. It makes me think about how important it is to cultivate a positive and supportive environment in our own lives, surrounding ourselves with people who lift us up, not tear us down.
Exactly. And remembering that we have a choice in how we respond to difficult situations. We can choose to engage in negativity, or we can choose to step away and create a more peaceful space for ourselves.
That's a great point. It's like we don't have to let the negativity win. So what are your final thoughts? We've covered a lot of ground today, from leadership and decision-making to social dynamics and the power of words. Is there one proverb that really stands out to you? Or maybe one that you think our listeners could really benefit from pondering?
I keep coming back to Proverbs 25.28. Like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. It makes me think about the importance of building strong foundations in our own lives. What are the walls that protect us from negativity, from harmful influences, from our own destructive impulses? Are they strong and sturdy, or are they crumbling? I think that's a question worth asking ourselves.
Wow, that's a great one to end on. Really makes you think. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today, but trust me, there's so much more wisdom to be found in Proverbs 25. I encourage you to dive in and explore it for yourselves. And hey, if you find any nuggets and wisdom that really resonate with you, feel free to share them in the comments below. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.